The Welcome Promise by George Daniel Lee. I'll never forget the day he found out. Most of us already knew, of course. We'd either been told by our parents, teachers, older siblings, or figured it out for ourselves. I was always an inquisitive little shit. Couldn't let things go. How does he get in? Our house doesn't have a chimney. Hang on, you buy the presents, I've seen you. So why does he have to deliver them? By the time I was 6, I pretty much knew the truth. He's not real, is he? It's just a story. I'll never forget the sad smile on my mum's face as she shook her head. And that was that. The story over. I didn't much care. Nor did most of the other kids my age. Not so long as the presents kept turning up underneath the Christmas tree. But listen, Simon. You mustn't tell Nicky, understand? Nicky Hall? Why him? Of all the kids at school, why would he matter especially? Wait, how do you even know? A shrug. A conspicuous glance away. I see his mum and dad from time to time. You know, roundabout. You mustn't tell him, okay? Okay. A shrug. Confusion I can't keep from my face. No, Simon. Look at me. Nicky. He's what we call troubled. It might not mean much to you, but I need you to promise me you won't tell him. I didn't understand back then why she was acting so strangely. Okay, fine. I promise I won't tell him. That's the sad thing about promises, of course. Sometimes they have a way of breaking themselves. Only a few weeks left till Christmas. Even the strictest teachers had largely checked out. They didn't care what we did, so long as it didn't disturb them. Nicky sat at the back of the class, like always, one desk over from mine. I didn't really know him back then, just another weird, quiet kid, but he seemed okay. Why are we doing this, sir? Eric Marshall, always the loudest one who could never keep his big mouth shut. Mr. Drake barely glanced up from his book, sipping from a cracked, stained coffee mug. All this Santa Claus crap. It's for little kids, this is. Colouring and cutouts, handmade Christmas cards. Nicky's was particularly good, I remember that. He'd used black paper to make the silhouettes of houses, white for the snow-covered streets, little squares of bright orange for warmly lit windows and street lamps, stars in the evening sky, the shadow of a rain-drawn sleigh passing across the moon. Nobody else seemed to notice any more than they ever did. Well, Eric, if you like, we can put it all away and get the proper workbooks out. What do you think? Scattered sniggers, a classroom full of eyes burning into the back of Eric's head. No, it's okay, sir. I thought as much. A few laughs. Eric grunting as he settled back down to his kid's work, a cluttered mess of glue and shredded paper, most of it stuck to the desk and his fingers. I don't know what made me look. I remember a cold tingling from the back of the classroom, as though someone had opened a window, letting the winter chill in. I'll never forget the look on Nicky's face, though. Hey, Nicky, you okay? I thought he was going to puke or pass out. His skin as pale as the paper he'd made snow from, his eyes wide and watery. What did he say? What does he mean? A hitched whisper, breathless. A paper snowflake caught in his throat. Who, Eric? Oh, don't listen to him. He's a bloody idiot. Nicky's eyes bored into the back of Eric's head. I remember thinking, if he could, he'd make that kid's head explode. What did he say? What did he mean? A rising shriek, enough to silence every laugh, every chattering exchange. I swear I heard the windows rattle in their frames, felt the noise in my teeth. Mr. Drake started, spilling coffee down his shirt. Bloody hell! Before he could do anything, Nicky was up out of his seat, at Eric's desk in the blink of an eye, a kid twice his size, more than capable of snapping him in two. Nicky, go back to your seat right now, Mr. Drake rarely shouted, but when he did, you felt it in the pit of your belly. I doubt Nicky even heard. What did you say? What did you mean? His shriek set my teeth on edge, made my temples throb. Eric shrank back in his seat, but recovered quickly, sensing the judgmental eyes of his cohorts. What the fuck do you want, you little freak? Sir, tell this little fucking queer to get out of my face.
What did you mean?
I didn't see what happened next. It happened so quickly, though I heard several conflicting accounts. Some say Nicky picked up one of Eric's pens or a pair of scissors from the desk and started stabbing at his face. Others that he did nothing at all, only stood and shrieked the same questions over and over. What did you say? What did you mean? Whatever the truth, screams erupted throughout the class, kids leaping up from their desks, hurtling away. All I saw was Eric collapse forward on his desk, red trickling over its edge, staining the carpet. That, of course, got Mr. Drake moving.
Nicky, for Christ's sake! What did you say? What did you mean?
Mr. Drake tried to pull the boy away. It shouldn't have taken much. Nicky was a scarecrow in school uniform. But somehow he resisted, rooted to the spot. As Mr. Drake tried to pull him back, the boy shrugged out of his grip, leaning over Eric as he lay bleeding. I didn't know what to do. Just a stupid, frightened kid. I could barely think, let alone move. The air in the classroom congealed, becoming thick and tar-like. But others, quicker in thought and on their feet than me, sped out of the room, calling for help. I saw Nicky bite Mr. Drake, heard the man curse as he pulled away.
Jesus fucking Christ! What did you say? What did you mean?
Stained lips, wild eyes. Panic bubbled inside, scouring every nerve, a scream rising in my throat that was never born. We didn't see Nicky much after that. Stories began to spread around the classrooms and schoolyard less than a day later.
Nicky Hall bit a teacher. That little weirdo from 8C. Apparently he stabbed a kid in the head with a pen. I saw the ambulance take him away. You couldn't see his face underneath the blood.
Within a few days, the accounts began to elaborate.
Yeah, he swallowed 2 of Mr. Drake's fingers. Eric's still in hospital. I heard he can't speak. Apparently he bit his own tongue off. Yeah, that little weirdo. They kicked him out of his old school for some satanic shit. My mum says he'd been expelled for sure.
Those of us who were there barely tried to correct them, knowing how pointless it was. The furore started to die down soon enough, buried beneath fresh scandals, real or otherwise. Within a month it was largely forgotten, along with the fact that Nicky Hall, that little freak, that fucking queer, ever existed. My mum would tell me a little later that his family was strange. She didn't elaborate, only vaguely suggested that something wasn't right. It's not our business, Simon. Just let things alone for once. Later still, through my own research, I learned that Nicky had been removed from them for reasons I couldn't specify, placed in an institution where he could be monitored and treated. Trauma, depression, self-harm. By all accounts, he'd attempted suicide no less than 3 times in the intervening years. I don't know why that made me feel as sad as it did. I barely knew the kid, hardly shared a handful of words with him in all that time. That's what makes the Christmas card so surprising. It came only a few days ago, delivered to my mum's address. I'm home from university for the holiday season, enjoying a well-deserved break from my studies, sociology with a smattering of psychology modules. I'm hoping to go into therapy at some point. Looks like this one's for you, love. Strange. I don't keep in touch with many people from home, barring family. The envelope she hands me is nondescript, the handwriting unfamiliar. To Simon, kiss. It all comes back the moment I open it, tease the card out. A smell of old classrooms and cheap glue, craft paper, stale coffee and teenage sweat. The card is the same, almost exactly. Black silhouettes of houses against an evening sky. Snow-covered streets, warmly lit windows. The moon is bigger, heavier than before, the sleigh lower, descending towards the rooftops. Oh, that's pretty. It's nice when folk go to the trouble of making their own, my mum comments. Yeah, it is. I don't want to open it. It doesn't feel right. Besides, I've worked hard to put that time of my life behind me. It's why I don't keep in touch with anyone from school. I wait until she's occupied before heading outside and throwing it away with the rest of the Christmas rubbish. I'm not back for long. Just enough to make Mum and Sister happy, maybe say hello to 1 or 2 distant cousins. It's been a long time since this place felt like home. I already ache to get back to my real life outside this snow globe world. Still, I'm happy to wear the smiles for now, play along with the games, pretend I enjoy the food, the music. I don't, I never have, even as a kid. It's all so rushed and busy and too much. Far, far too much. We have snow, the first in almost 10 years. It settles thick, freezing on the paths and fields. Trains are cancelled, motorways closed. The country grinds to a peaceful halt. She must have fished it out of the rubbish at some point. It's the only explanation. The Christmas card sits on my bedroom windowsill, condensation running down the freezing glass behind, making the world molten. Mum? What, love? I'm a bit busy down here. It's in remarkably good condition for something that's been mouldering in the damp and rubbish for the last day or so. Not a crease or a stain on it. Did you put this in my room? What? I can't hear a word. No, not with Christmas songs blaring 24/7. If I have to listen to Slade or George Michael or Mariah Carey one more time, I swear I'll throw myself out of the window. It is a pretty thing, so well made, so much passion put into it. What did you say? What did you mean? It looks different now that I come to think about it. The silhouetted buildings don't look quite right, their proportions faintly off, angles stretched, ceilings listing. Several of the windows are no longer warm orange, but dark and empty, the street lamps unlit. There are still figures walking in the snow, but they seem slightly off too, partially melted into the damp. The sky is darker, the moon low and swollen. As for the sleigh, it now stands on one of the misshapen rooftops, its reindeer too tall and spindly, necks and heads overlong. A ragged Father Christmas rummages in his sack with an overlong arm, a bulbous blob, a spider imperfectly crushed against the paper. I don't look at it for too long. It gives me a headache, rakes up too much old anxiety. What did you say? What did you mean? Eric was never the same after that day. I remember seeing him when he came back to school, pale and skinny and fretful, scars on his face, so quiet compared to the brash, barking boy he'd been. We were never friends as such. I don't think Eric had friends any more than Nicky did. He had followers, hangers-on, a little cult of personality. Until that day. They slowly abandoned him with his quivering anxiety, his nervous tics. In a way, he started to remind me of Nicky, another lonely, strange, quiet boy, barely seeming to be there, a ghost haunting the corridors and classrooms. I only spoke with him that one time because I found him in the library at lunch, alone and apart from everything. "Hey, Eric, man." He didn't seem to hear, muttering to himself as he stared out of the window. It was snowing then, too. The schoolyard a riot of snowball fights and slip-sliding games. "I don't want it. Take it back, you little freak. I didn't mean anything." He started when I sat down in the opposite chair, the look in his eyes, angry, as though I'd disturbed him in some private ritual. "Sorry. Can I?" He stared at me for a long time, as though trying to work out who I was, what I wanted. Yeah, I suppose." No bones about the fact he'd rather I didn't. I don't know why I felt so sorry for him now. I suppose I liked playing the saviour. He turned away almost instantly, staring out of the window, watching the games as though studying the behaviours of animals or aliens. Time was, he'd been the first out there hurling snowballs, ferrying ice down the backs of vulnerable necks, cackling demented glee at every slip and scream. I didn't know what to say, how to start. I just knew that something inside ached, breathless, wanting to reach out, take his hand. "Ugh, get off, you fucking queer!" I didn't know at the time why that stung so deeply. Attributed it to having my sympathy thrown back in my face. I'd learn better in the years to come, when I managed to escape. "Just trying to help, man." "Yeah, well, you can't, so fuck off and leave me alone." So final. No room for argument. So I did. I regret that now. I could have done more, said something, but I didn't. By the end of the week, the snow was gone, and so was Eric Marshall. I don't know how it got there. Don't look at me. The aftermath of Christmas dinner, so full I can barely stand, let alone think straight. A glass of warm, mulled port. Come on, Mum. Somebody must have pulled it out of the rubbish. I've already told you. I didn't even know it was in there. Besides, why'd you throw it away? Someone put a lot of work into that. I know. I saw him making it. No, it doesn't matter. Who's it from, anyway? She talks while loading the dishwasher, stashing leftovers in the fridge. I almost don't say, though I don't know why. Somebody I knew from school. You remember that kid, Nicky Hall? She barely pauses, barely thinks, but I see it. The flicker in her eyes, a moment of reluctant recognition. You mustn't tell Nicky, understand? Oh, yeah, I remember. Quiet kid, a bit odd. Didn't he have some sort of fit? Bite some teacher's fingers off? I can't help but laugh, as much at the performance as anything else. That's not what happened, Mum. It was... What? What was it exactly? It seems so long ago now. A dream from another life. I must have thought about it once or twice since leaving for university, but... Well, it's nice he remembers you, I suppose. Yeah, I suppose it is. I throw the card out again. This time I wait until night, staying up nursing a bottle of port in front of the TV, old Christmas specials and cooking shows interspersed by sporadic news updates, the same old miseries, the same old palliatives. I hate it here. I didn't realise how much until I came home. The place is smothering, the whole town moving in slow motion, caught in some time warp separate from the rest of the world. It's in the air, on every breath, lassitude, a silent lullaby, everything slow and dreamy. It feels like dying. The snow still falling outside, a thick covering crunching beneath my slippers as I make my way to the bins. A pale haze hangs in the sky, tinted faintly pink and amber. The sharpness in the air rouses me, driving the fog and weariness from my head. This time I tear the card into pieces, press them down amongst the heavy rubbish. Merry Christmas, Nicky, wherever the hell you are. I hear something as I head back inside, a bird-like flutter off in the shadowed back garden. It could be anything, a crow, a magpie. Foxes are quite common in the area. But it doesn't sound like any of them. For the briefest instant, I imagine I hear the faint tinkling of bells. It could be the TV. I left it on, didn't I? Whatever it is, it grows still and silent in the dark, leaving only a prickly, paranoid sense of watchfulness. Hello? My voice falls dead against the snow. I'm a little boy again, lost and afraid of the dark. It's nothing. I know it's nothing. And yet my heart flutters, my breath catches, the cold lining my insides with frost. Familiar silhouettes, conifers bounding the garden, the listing willow tree in the corner, Dad's old rockery with its fossils and seashells, mementos of family holidays. Something else. Something that shouldn't be there. A blur of motion, a shimmer of eyes, gone too quickly to leave anything but the most fleeting impression. Enough to clutch my heart, steal what's left of my breath. Something hunched and ragged-edged, a shapeless shadow cut by palsied fingers. In the next instant, I'm inside, slamming and locking the door behind me, cursing my own idiocy. Fucking idiot! What's wrong with you? Nothing. Just a fox, some wild thing wandered up from the nearby woods. Funny how our minds make nightmares out of nothing. I don't sleep well. I'm back at school, though it's not how I remember. The light all wrong, the dimensions of the classroom distorted. The faces surrounding me are blurred and in motion, animated pencil scrawls on living paper. The world outside the windows is a cut-out place, black silhouettes against a block of scarlet sky. Nothing feels real here. I don't think anything ever did, least of all me. Only he seems solid and certain, hunched over his desk at the back of the classroom, scribbling, cutting, gluing. He mutters to himself as he works, lines from old Christmas films and cartoon specials. I recognize some of them from when we were kids. Nicky? My voice slurs and seeps into the air, visible strings of ugly black smoke rising from my lips. He doesn't listen. Something's wrong, something terrible approaching. I feel it. Panic bubbling in my belly, stealing my breath. But they can't hear. Nobody listens. Nicky laughs as I tumble out of my chair, attempting to crawl to him across the carpet. Shapes swarm there, cast off scraps of craft paper, scurrying like bugs. You got lost, Simon. How did that happen? His is the only clear voice, the only one I make out in the chattering nonsense, the distorted scraps of hymns and Christmas songs. I crawl towards him, but get no closer. It's him. Whatever it is, he's calling it here. I was very careful.
I did everything I was told like a good boy, and somehow you still managed to flutter away.
I should never have come back. Raising my head, the weight of it hideous, I glimpse red on his fingers, his scissors, the paper seeping where he cuts.
What's happening, Nicky? What are you doing?
He grins, happier than I've ever seen him, stars shimmering in his eyes.
It's going to be a happy Christmas. I'm making one for everybody. My new friend showed me how.
It's so close now. The light bleeds away outside, unnatural darkness falling.
The building shakes around us, blurred, twitching phantoms cackling as they tumble out of their chairs, slam against the walls and ceiling. Gravity undone, a nonsense now. I reach his desk, dragging myself up by its wet edge. Bits of living paper swarm over my fingers, pausing to bite or sting like insects before I shake them away.
His Christmas card is almost done.
Do you like it? I was going to give it to you, you know. You were always nice to me.
Not like the rest. I barely even spoke with him, but I never mocked him, never joined in the cruel laughter when others tripped him in the corridors, pushed him in the dirt on the sports field. Others like Eric Marshall.
Please, Nicky. I couldn't give it to you then. It wasn't finished. I didn't know. I didn't know how. But I can now. I hope you like it.
He hands me the card, which writhes and flickers in his hand. I can't help but accept it. The curdling dream forces me to. The moment I do, the windows burst, the walls crumble and peel back. Snow spills in from the darkness enveloping us, filling my eyes and mouth. Only his smiling face is visible through the swirling white. It isn't real snow. Flecks of shredded paper, the wind carrying alien laughter, the sound of sleigh bells. Happy Christmas, happy Christmas, happy... I don't want to open my eyes. For those few precious moments I don't have to know, safe in the darkness between dreams and waking.
But it can't last. He won't let it.
My bedroom curtains peel back, the street beyond blanketed white, the pink blush of dawn muted by threatening grey.
It looks like a drawing, something an artistically inclined kid might make. Christmas music rises from downstairs, shuddering me to my soul. Déjà vu.
The card sits on my windowsill, whole again, as though it's never been otherwise.
I don't want to touch it, don't want to look at it. It's an open wound, a blemish on creation, something that shouldn't be. But I can't look away.
The silhouetted houses barely resemble houses anymore, torn and ragged, stretched and warped.
Where there were windows, now there's gaping rents, the figures peering from within, white phantasms, childlike in size, but in shape.
Nothing quite so simple. The wanderers on the streets are the same, hunched and malformed, some on all fours like beasts, others slithering, limbless. Unsteady scissors have gone to work on all, including the moon, which now hangs in strips as though melting down upon the world below. In its sickly, fluid light, the smeared spider Father Christmas stuffs one of the flailing child things into its sack, dragging it back towards its sleigh. The reindeer are all but skeletal, minute dots of cold white where their eyes should be. Driven by that same reluctant dream imperative, I pluck out the card, open it, every instinct, every remaining shred of reason shrieking. Inside, red finger marks, the smeared prints of a clumsy child having cut itself on the craft scissors, writing in a jagged, skittering hand. I know what he said now. I understand what he meant. Are you having a Merry Christmas, Simon?
Fuck you.
Mum's already in the kitchen, where she was when I woke yesterday and the day before, a Christmas playlist on her iPad, the same songs over and over, busy preparing Christmas dinner. Wasn't it Christmas yesterday? I try to remember. Déjà vu, an unreachable itch behind my eyes.
Morning, love. I didn't wake you, did I? You were still asleep, so... What the bloody hell are you doing?
Looking for matches, a gas lighter, anything. I find them at the back of a cupboard amongst old mugs and tea sets that I never used. The third match from the box strikes, the craft paper catching in a heartbeat.
For Christ's sake, Simon!
I dump the blackening card in the sink. She makes to turn on the tap, douse it, but I hold her back, watching until there's nothing left but ashes. There's an argument after. She accuses me of being strange since I got back. Tells me she doesn't like what being away has done to me.
I respond that it's done me good, made me a better person than I ever could be here, this ridiculous small town with its ridiculous small town mindset divorced from wider reality. Go back, then. Go back if being here so awful. I'm not having you ruin Christmas for the rest of us. I know she has problems with me leaving. She's never said so, knows it's an argument she can't win, but I've noticed flickers of resentment, moments of unthinking, passive spite when the mask slips once in a while. She thinks I've abandoned them here, that I only come back under sufferance. The worst of it is, she isn't entirely wrong. What the hell's going on, Mum? Why do you keep putting that bloody car back in my room? I keep telling you I don't. I don't know what you're bloody talking about. Not entirely the truth, not entirely a lie. I know her well enough by now to recognise the little telltale signs. She doesn't look at me as she answers, busies herself bustling about the kitchen. Focus shifting from fridge to hob to oven and back again. Anything rather than me. You know something. I don't know what, but you do. You mustn't tell Nicky. Understand? The room lists and swims around me, a cardboard structure melting in the damp. For a moment she's not here. Something else stands in her place, angular, blurred and distorted. Why? Why did you tell me that when I was a kid? How did you even know who Nicky was? From the living room, the doggerel of Christmas specials on TV, news reports detailing the latest atrocities. Outside, snow falls. Nothing feels certain. Nothing feels real. I don't know what you're talking about. Come and sit down, have some dinner and a drink. You'll feel better after. That same sense of déjà vu, as of being here before, having this argument, the same empty resolution, again and again. I can't. What day did I get home? It was... Why can't I remember? She doesn't answer, but starts to hum along with the Christmas song stuttering in the air. I can't look at her, can't listen, can't stand to be here anymore. Where are you going? Dinner's almost ready. The door slams behind, welcome silence enveloping me as I stumble out into the empty, not quite day. It's sweetly chill outside, the air still and muted. Snow falls gently, settling denser than I've known it since childhood. Are you having a happy Christmas, Simon? There's no one else, the street's empty, even the roads are quiet, every house I pass warmly lit, music and laughter echoing from inside. Glancing back, I see my own home, the house where I grew up, little more than a black, featureless shape now against unnatural, deepening dusk. I have to laugh, it's not real, none of it. As real as it needs to be, as real as we want it. He's here. I don't know how, but I feel him. Eyes in the snow, a sickle moon smile in the sky. I'm one of his paper cutout people, waiting to be glued into place. Occasionally I see a flicker, the world around me creasing, rippling, a painted curtain. It hurts my head, makes my teeth ache. The snow isn't cold in those moments, drifts of white paper underfoot, shreds dancing in the air. The sky a block of solid colour, even the surrounding houses become monolithic without depth or distinction. In those moments I hear bells tinkling far away, the voices of children laughing, lost in Christmas games. In those moments there are people in the street, but they aren't people anymore. They lurch and shiver and drag their shapeless frames through the snow, torn and ragged at the edges. It's gone the next instant, leaving me breathless, shivering. What do you want, for Christ's sake? I feel like I'm losing my mind. Laughter echoes, footsteps in the distance, soft in the snow. Hey! Hey, wait! I follow, dread escalating with every heartbeat. I've never been back. I hated it here as much as anyone, and I had an easier time than most. It's different from how I remember. The fences surrounding the school no longer briar-tangled wood, but ugly rusted metal, vandalised signs proclaiming it private property, threatening prosecution upon trespassers. I find him at the front gates, where I and the friends I've forgotten used to gather at break times. He's taller than I remember, older, his hair long now, stirring gently in the snow. Nicky? A soft smile, sitting strange on a face so used to frowns. Happy Christmas, Simon. A part of me wants to be angry, to rush him, beat him bloody in the snow, but it dies in the face of his smile. What rises in its place, something I don't recognise. Warm, calm, a welcome stillness. What are you doing to me?
Nothing. I'm happy you're back. I don't know how I lost you. The world flickers around us, becoming a pantomime backdrop, the painted and cut-out world of a child's Christmas project. You did this. His smile becomes a grin. Not exactly. Not alone. Another wave of vertigo, a quiver of the curtain. I stumble against him, his scrawny arms embracing me, holding me up. Just another Christmas drunk, stumbling their way home. Stop. Please stop it. He sighs as he guides me through the gates, towards the luridly lit entrance. He's so warm, a spiced scent surrounding him, making my head swim. I can't. I didn't start it. We all did. The unhappiness of one child wasn't enough, but so many. From inside, laughter, music, games, the smell of roasting meats, baking puddings. The school isn't the same. The building warps and wavers through the snow, becoming another black silhouette, greater and more elaborate than any thus far. Please. I want to go home. He brushes snow from my hair, my cheek. Such an intimate gesture, I can't help but wonder what we might have been to one another if we'd only spoken more. I know you do. Eric was the same. Eric Marshall, he died. Suicide. A fall from the 5th-story flat that he and his dad shared. I remember reading about it online, the quiet shock of it. He was unhappy. Like all of us, I sent him a Christmas card too. Take it back, you little freak. I don't want it. A smiling figure appears in the doorway, decked out in a lurid Christmas sweater, nursing a glass of steaming cider. He's older than he was when we... At last. Took your fucking time getting here, didn't you? He staggers out into the snow, embracing me, smelling of cheap aftershave and spiced liquor. For the briefest moment his face blurs through the falling snow, his body distorting, becoming dark, angular, a cut-out thing. Then it's gone, and there's only the warmth, only the promise of a happy Christmas. Good to see you, Simon, man. We've been waiting for you. He pulls away, heading back inside. In the light beyond, others move, shadows dancing and tumbling, enraptured by their shadow games. Why don't you just go, if being here's so awful? It hurts to turn away, hurts to look back. It's dark in the street behind, dark and cold and empty. There's nothing out there, Simon. Not for any of us. There never was. I made some new friends. Friends from outside and far away. They made it better. They gave me presents like you wouldn't believe. I want to share them with you. I barely hear him now. The music and laughter fill my head. Drink I haven't yet drunk, making it swim. Oh, I almost forgot. He fumbles inside his coat, pressing something into my hands. It's a Christmas card. The Christmas card. Finished now, at last. A dark, dead world. A place of cold, empty houses and silence. Of broken promises. No more moon. No more flying sleighs or reindeer. No more Father Christmas. They're here with us. As real in this world as hunger in the one we've left behind. Undeniable as winter. And I'll see them soon. Soaring in the sky overhead. Landing on the rooftops, laden with gifts. I already hear the bells, the laughter. I hold the unreal in my hands now, that dead child's dream, an absurd setting nobody truly believes in, worthy only of being forgotten. Dimly, distantly, someone calls my name, an old, sad woman sobbing. I can't remember who she is. Can't remember caring. Happy Christmas, Simon. Happy Christmas, Nicky. Letting the card fall in the snow, I follow him inside, into the light and warm and the welcome promise of forgetting.